Hello, this is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry, and we're coming to you live from the Farmer Street Pantry kitchen. And thank you so much for joining us today for Food Talk Live. We're doing easy and elegant cream puffs. So if you haven't tried these in your baking voyages recently, maybe you've made cakes, maybe you've done pies, cookies, muffins, but if you haven't tried cream puffs, they're absolutely wonderful. They're a mainstay of the French baking tradition. And as you'll see today, they're not just for dessert. You can use them in other applications as well across your menu. So hope you can stay with us the whole time. We have a lot of ground to cover, and I'm so excited that you're here with us today. So we'll get really started in another minute or so. But I just wanted to let you know that if you have any questions, we're broadcasting through the phone today, so we really don't have the opportunity to directly answer questions live in the moment. But if you put in a comment, I will review them afterwards, and I'll be happy to get an answer to you. You can also message me on our Facebook page, Farmer Street Pantry, and get in touch with us that way. If you have any comments or suggestions, I always have questions, so look forward to maybe some of your answers, and we can help each other out that way. So great. All right, well, let's get started. This are we on, cameraman? Are we on time? Okay. Again, this is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry, and thank you for joining us today for Food Talk Live. This is a weekly series that we started a few weeks ago. So thanks again for showing up. It seems as though we have 4 more minutes before the absolute beginning, so we'll fill the time in just a little bit. Today we're going to be doing cream puff dough. It's also called pâte à choux in the French tradition, and it's a great basis for a lot of different desserts. This kind of quarantine in place has made a lot of us explore new things and try different things. I've been trying more things in gluten-free, also sugar-free, and also dairy-free. So that's been an exciting thing for me. I'd love to hear what you've been doing. If you have tackled anything new that's been exciting for you and that is now part of your toolkit for the kitchen, that would be great to hear. And if you have found any ingredients, if you have found anything that is a new product for you that has been useful for you, we'd love to hear about that as well. So the weather's been a little bit cold. I think we're really looking forward to warming up this month. It seems as though spring has been a long time coming, and we're going to be excited and anxious to get outside. But hopefully all of these things that we've been working on in the kitchen will be able to, keep with us as we get on the other side of these pandemic weeks and months. So again, thank you for joining us. This is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry, and we're coming to you live from the kitchen at Farmer Street. And that's Ava back there. She's having lunch, and pretty soon you're going to hear Kitty's food going into her dish. So we're lucky that we have 2 cats to share our 100-year-old house with here on Farmer Street. And the kitchen is basically not much changed except for the appliances from the original way that it was laid out. The cabinets are 100 years old, they're original. And so it's great atmosphere, and it's a great place to work. It's laid out very, very efficiently, and really have a good experience working in this kitchen, as I'm sure you do in yours. So So again, Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry, we're getting ready to go live with our today's food talk show. which is Easy and Elegant Cream Puffs. And I decided to do this because I felt that this was a great basic recipe that comes from the French tradition, but it's used in many applications. There's some real showstopper desserts that I'll show you a little bit later that you can do with it, or you can just, in the time that it takes you to bake a batch of cookies, you can have a batch of cream puffs and be ready to go for either appetizers or for dessert or for something to go along with one of your other courses. So that's the beauty of pâte à choux, which is cream puff dough. So again, thank you for joining us. This is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry. Welcome to Food Talk Live. And today we're going to cover the easy and very elegant cream puff, which is one of the basic foundations of French baking and is something that you can take from appetizer to dessert. And I better go get my tray of cream puffs. Here we go. So classic shapes are the cream puff, which you can top with a lot of different things. These are also called profiterole. You also are probably familiar with eclairs. So these are formed using pâte à choux, which is the French name for the cream puff pastry that we're talking about today. So let's get started. If you have been baking and doing muffins, doing cookies, doing cakes, pies, this is really something, if you can do that, you can absolutely do cream puffs. This is something that's easy, quick, and the time that it takes you to bake a sheet of, to make up and bake a sheet of cookies, you can make some cream puffs and really impress yourself, impress your family, your friends, and have something that is a wonderful envelope to put a lot of different fillings in. It doesn't have to just be dessert. So let's get started, and we'll talk more along the way. Okay, so this is a cooked dough. You start on the stove. Let me show you the recipe. We're talking pâte à choux, which means paste of cabbage, and the reason it's called that is because when it's baked up, it kind of looks like a cabbage a little bit. And pâte à choux, this particular recipe will make about more or less 12 small puffs, and very simple. I guarantee you have all of these ingredients. We're doing half a cup of water, 2.5 tablespoons of butter, or you can use an oil of your choice, olive oil. Some of the items that you see, I've used olive oil, and it works just as well. 1/4 teaspoon salt. You can omit it if you want to do that. You can increase it if you'd like, depending on your taste. And 1/2 cup of plain flour. Again, very versatile recipe. If you want to substitute gluten-free flour, go right ahead. It works just as well, just as long as you have a flour blend that includes xanthan gum. But anyway, so just 1/2 cup of flour, and then 2 large eggs, and beat them up a little bit ahead of time. So you can see, very easy. You probably have everything that you need right now in your kitchen for pâte à choux. Okay, so let's get the pot started on the stove. And into the pot, we're going to dump our water, 1/2 cup of water. And I'm going to put salt in because I think it's a flavor enhancer. So I'm going to do like a heaping, this is Diamond Kosher salt, heaping, 1/4 teaspoon of that. And our butter is going to go in as well. Nice wooden spoon, always handy. So that's going to go in. Okay, and then over medium heat, we're going to heat that up. I'm going to put a lid on because, as I'm sure you know, if you put a lid on things, when they're heating up, they heat up more quickly. So we're going to put a lid on that and let that go. But I want to show you some of the examples of pâte à choux that come from the classic French baking tradition. So you know what I'm talking about. These are the names of the desserts. Paris Brest is a very large ring of pâte à choux, which is baked and then filled with a beautiful praline buttercream or pastry cream, and then some whipped cream. Gâteau Saint-Honoré or cream puffs in a circle with caramel on the top. And then croquembouche is a beautiful pyramid of caramel covered cream puffs that they oftentimes will use as a wedding cake in France. So let me, I'll show you a couple of those. Here's a large ring that could be Paris-Brest. So this is a ring of the dough that's piped out to about around a 6-inch model that I drew onto the parchment paper, and 3 rings, actually, 2 on either side of the circle, and then 1 on top, egg wash covered with sliced almonds and then baked up. This I actually made with olive oil instead of butter, so you see olive oil can work. Another example, slightly smaller. This is, again, a Paris-Brest type ring. Again, olive oil dough, but this is piped out around a 5-inch circle, and I covered it with poppy seeds. And we're going to come back to this later because this is going to be lunch. So stay tuned. Let me show you when I talk about using the parchment paper and drawing a circle. This is what I talk about. This is the same size as what I just showed you for the Paris-Brest type ring. 1 inside the circle, 1 outside the circle, and then what you don't see is there's 1 more that's piped on top of that crease. And I'll show you how I do the piping in just a little bit. Okay, so let's check this out. Almost ready. So let me show you a couple of things that might be interesting to you if you like French pastry. So this is Gaston Lenotre's book, which came out in the early 1980s, maybe late 70s. He has a company, a wonderful pastry company. Maybe you've been to Paris and you've seen some of his trucks driving around. But he is definitely the godfather for teaching about pastry. And here's the Paris-Brest, which is the same ring that you saw, sliced, filled with the cream, whipped cream, and then some confectioner's sugar. And then there's small versions of that too. So you see their variety. There are different things that you can do with that. And then the Gâteau Saint-Honoré, which back in the day when I used to be a pastry chef, I used to love to make. It's so, has 2 different doughs. It has a short crust dough on the bottom, then some spirals of the pâte à choux, and individual cream puffs covered with caramel. And then there's a chibouste cream in the middle, which is a combination of pastry cream and a meringue, a fresh meringue. Wonderful. So that's Gâteau Saint-Honoré. And then I don't have a photo of croquembouche, but if you have time and you want to check it out, see if you can find a croquembouche. Croque is the sound that crunchy caramel makes, and then in your mouth, bouche is the word for mouth in French. Another person, while we're on the French, topic of the French, if you want another book, and maybe you can go to a used bookstore and find one. Jacques Pépin, maybe you've seen him with Julia Child. Wonderful basics. This La Technique is just a Bible of French cooking. So not just desserts, but across the spectrum. And he tells you in detail knife skills and things to look out for when you're cooking. So that's recommended as well. Okay, I bet we're ready to go here in the pot. Yes, we are. Okay, so what you want is you want it to come to a boil. This is just water, butter, and salt, if you remember. Some recipes, Lenotre, for example, he uses milk and water in his. Pépin, he uses just water. So we're just doing water today. It is butter, it's not oil today, but you can use olive oil. You can see some of the examples where olive oil does work. And the salt. So we're into this. While it's brought to a boil, you don't need to boil it a lot. Just bring it to the boil, turn it off, and then you're going to dump in the flour all at once and mix it up. And then mix it so that it's combined. You don't see white spots anymore. It comes together in a nice ball and it smooths out. But we're not quite done. We want to cook it just a little bit more. So I'm going to turn the heat back on to like a medium low. And we're just going to let this cook up a little bit more until it creates a film on the bottom of the pot. Just a slight film. The reason we're doing this is we're drying out the dough so that it has room to absorb the eggs when we add those in. So just cooking a little bit more. Now, pâte à choux can also be, it can be baked, but it can also be fried. For example, my aunt used to make some wonderful donuts. She would add sugar to the dough, which you can do as well too if you want something that has a little bit of sweetness to it. She would add a little bit of sugar to the dough, and she would, after she beat the eggs in, she would add it to some hot oil on the stove, and she would fry up donuts, little donuts that she would then sprinkle some confectioner's sugar on. And we loved eating those. It was very light. They weren't oily at all. That's a whole other topic is how to fry, but she really knew how to do it, and it was great. Another way you can use these is there are recipes for something called pomme dauphine or dauphine potatoes, and those are mixed with mashed potatoes. So mashed potatoes where you don't have an awful lot of milk and so forth, and you add about a third of the weight. The total weight is pâte à choux. And again, you would mix that together and fry it. And those are oftentimes served with something that has a lot of gravy with it. So again, other applications. Okay, so we have a nice film on the bottom. Maybe it's hard to see, it's a light bottom pot, but the dough has dried out a bit. And now we're going to put it in a bowl and beat our eggs in with just a wooden spoon. Now, you can scale this recipe up quite a bit to the point, probably in your standing mixer. I've got a KitchenAid. Using the paddle attachment, you can probably get up to 3 or 4 times this size recipe. So doing, let's say, 3 or 4 dozen little profiteroles, if that's the shape that you're doing. But since it's only 2 eggs, I'm going to just do it here in the bowl. Probably 4 eggs you can handle just fine in a bowl with a wooden spoon, and you can beat it in. Okay, so I've beaten the eggs ahead of time. I like to do that because it's a little easier to in increments add the eggs. So I'm going to do almost half of this, I would say, to get started. And we're just going to add that together. Again, if you're just joining us, this is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry with Food Talk Live, and today we are covering easy and elegant cream puffs. This is pâte à choux, which is the French word for cream puff dough that we're working with, and we're exploring different ways that you can use this very easy dough. Okay, so you see how the dough has started to absorb the egg and actually kind of become a little bit stiff. That's great. So this is a well dried out dough. We can continue to add some egg. You don't want it to be, the dough to be too runny, and you have to add it in degrees because the properties of each thing that you're combining are so different. You probably recognize this issue when you're making like a cream sauce or a what's the word? A bechamel. Thank you very much. I was working on it. So finally it will come together. Okay. And I'm going to go I think mostly all the way. I tend to leave a little bit left over, like a teaspoon or so, so that you have an egg glaze on the top, if you want. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to do that, you can. So again, it's a little resistant at first. You got to just keep working it, and it will start to come together. There we go. And you want to take it to where it's all homogeneous, the same. All the egg is blended in there, nice and smooth. Okay, I think that's good. I'm going to use it like that. I'm going to save this. I had saved some in case the dough needed some more egg. I had saved some from an earlier batch of the egg wash, but we're just going to combine those two. Got some nice egg wash. I'm happy with the way the dough looks. So it's soft, but it's holding its shape. Yeah, maybe it could use just a drop more of egg. We'll do that. Okay, beat that in. Oh yes, it's soaking that egg right up. Now, you don't have to use egg. In fact, I made some vegan puffs with an egg substitute, and this is how they came out. I piped this out with a star tip, so it looks a little bit different. But you can make this without eggs. I used aquafaba. If you're not familiar with that, that is the water that is in a can of chickpeas or cannellini beans. It has a lot of protein in it. It's kind of viscous like an egg white. And I actually beat it to like a soft peak and added it. But I need to experiment and see if you don't have to beat it. But you do need to add baking powder to it. So I added couple teaspoons of baking powder, not to that, probably a teaspoon and a half to this size recipe. So you can make this eggless, those of you. You can also do egg replacer. And so just follow the directions and get the equivalent amount in eggs, which for this recipe, the 2-egg recipe, is a half a cup. So reconstitute this to a half a cup and you'll have enough. And this has leavening in it, so you don't need to add baking powder to it at all. But you can do this without eggs. So the only thing I couldn't do it eggless and gluten-free. I'm still working on that. So if you have any ideas about how to do that, then please let me know. Okay, so now our dough is ready to go. And now we're going to come to a technique which I think is useful for many different things, using a pastry bag. Now, you don't need to use a pastry bag to form these, and I'll show you how you can do that. But I thought it would be something that would be nice to cover today, because there are a couple of opportunities that we have using the pastry bag. All right, so this is a small version which you can find in, if you go to a kitchen supply place, certainly online you can get it. This is a smaller one. It kind of has some chocolate mousse stains on it, but they're great. It's lined with it's like a cloth that's coated in wax, so it's sturdy and they're reusable. You can rewash them, and you cut the tip off to put a metal tip in. But I couldn't find my straight metal tip, which is one that doesn't have ridges or peaks on it. So what I'm going to do is just use the bag as a straight tip, and to keep the dough from squishing out, I'm going to close it with this paper clip. Comme ça, as the French would say. All right, so you roll the cuff down on the bag and put it over your hand so you have a firm place to work with the wooden spoon. And this is a kind of a strong dough. So I'm going to leave some out so I can show you how to do it without using the pastry bag. Another option is a strong Ziploc bag, but you know, I hate to use plastic like that, so maybe if you can invest in a pastry bag, that may be the way to go. Or you can certainly shape any of this just using a spoon and, you know, and pushing it into shape with some egg wash. So, all right, I'm going to leave a little bit, enough maybe for 2 puffs to the side. Okay, so you can also do this with a spatula too. So you just want to, using your hand, work the dough off and then bring the cuff up. You have a nice, hopefully a firm closure there. And then you want to kind of work the dough down into the tip. You always want to be moving towards the tip. You don't want any air bubbles in this because then you have the dreaded pastry bag fart. And you don't want that because it'll blow things around. And if you can avoid those air pockets in your pastry bag, it's a good idea. Okay, so hopefully no air pockets. And then what you want to do is you want to kind of pleat the top of your bag and twist it. All right, so you always want to work the force from the twist. You don't want down here towards the tip. That's not where you squeeze. Because if you squeeze here, where's it going to go? It's going to go 2 ways. It's going to go this way and it's going to go that way. And you only want it going towards the tip. So always just rotate, rotate, rotate from here, and that will provide enough torque to force it out this way. Don't squeeze in the middle. Okay, so we'll take this off, and you can see it emerging right there. We'll save this to do with a spoon. And then I have here, this is, you've seen some parchment paper that I have for other things. This is a Silpat, which is a silicone pad, and you use this again and again and again. One of my daughters gave this to me. Thank you very much. So it's great, and you wash it and so forth. So we're going to work on here. We're going to make some individual cream puffs, and then we'll do a couple of eclairs. And here we go. So you want to start about 1/2 inch above the surface of your mat or your parchment, and then you just draw up the tip a little bit until it makes a nice little hat like that. Okay, so then give yourself a few inches because these guys do spread. Draw up the tip, make your hat. You want to twist a little bit. These are going to be some big, nice puffs. Drop the tip. I have some air pockets in there. Don't worry if it flops over. Not a problem at all. Okay, so I'll leave space here for a couple of spoon ones. Let's do a couple of eclairs. So we were straight up and down with the pastry bag for these. For the eclairs, you want to be a little bit on the side at like a 45-degree angle. Again, you're twisting from here. You're not squeezing from here. So get your twist going on a little bit more, and then just dragging it and letting it come up. If you have a metal tip in there, a straight metal tip, it comes out easier because you can cut it with the metal. So we'll do one more again. All right, and then twist, get it up. Okay, we still have some in here, so we'll do one more. One more puff. Kind of look like elves' hats. Okay. And then let's, for the remainder, I'll show you how to do it on a spoon. Okay, so good teaspoon worth. Just work it. And there we go. And again, we can cover up any kind of misshapenness with the egg wash. Okay, so let's do that. So, one thing I didn't mention was the oven. You need to have your oven preheated to 400 degrees. And then for this size format, you're going to bake them at that temperature for 20 minutes. And then you're going to turn the oven down to 375 and put a wooden spoon holding the door ajar. I'll show you how to do that. And for the remaining 10 minutes to dry them out. So anyway, pastry brush. Hopefully you have it. If you don't have it, you can certainly use your finger, and that will work just as well. Hands are the best tool in the kitchen, absolutely. So, you know, if you don't have a pastry brush, just brush it on with your finger, and actually you can feel the shape a little bit better that way. Otherwise, take your pastry brush and just sort of tap the top of the hats down, give it a nice glaze. I put a drop of water or two of water in here, maybe a teaspoon or so, just to thin it out. Also, you in recipes you can use a little cream, a little milk. You don't have to. Just get it to the consistency that works well. I like a combination of yolk and white in egg wash. Some people, they just like egg yolk and heavy cream. I like to use both. So give the eclairs a little glaze for this guy. Okay. All right, so we have our profiterole, or cream puffs, and our eclair. So let's fancy them up a little bit. Why don't we take some, I have here sliced almonds, sesame seeds, poppy seeds. So let's do a combination of things here. On one of the eclairs, let's do the one that has a few more lines on it. Let's do some sliced almonds. And let's do sliced almonds on a couple of these. I love it with sliced almonds. Okay, and then we can let's do something like an everything bagel, for example, on a couple of these. Here we go with sesame seeds, sesame seeds, sesame seeds. And then I also have poppy seeds here too. So if you're looking to do something that's a little savory, if you want to make some sliders, these make great sliders. So you don't need to dry them out, and I'll explain that in a little bit, as much for sliders, because you kind of want them sort of on the soft side. But yeah, for an appetizer, something with tuna or egg salad or ham salad, or today I'm going to put some, it's not a mushroom pate, but it's a mushroom sauteed with onions and thyme and a few other things. We're going to put those in there too. So if you don't have slider buns, or if you just want to make it a little more special than a slider bun, the profiteroles, maybe with a little poppy seed and sesame seed, would be very nice. So we have we have some plain, we have some doctored up. So into the 400-degree oven they go, and that's going to go for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. I'm going to have in our description on our YouTube channel, and then also on Facebook, I'm going to have a link for the recipes. So please check back with us so that you can get those. But again, so 20 minutes, 400 degrees, and then after 20 minutes, you're going to turn it down. I've got my little timer here. You set it up for 10 more minutes, and then at that point, you're going to put a wooden stick in the door like that, and that will provide a little more air circulation and help the pastry dry out a little bit. So, thanks to the magic of television, we have a tray that is already been baked. And these aren't hot, so I'm just going to go like that. Okay. So we have the plain, the everything bagel type, and the sliced almonds and the eclairs. Don't they look great? Okay, so let's fill them. Let's make something of them. Let's start with the two profiterole that could possibly be sliders. So let's slide a nice serrated knife, because that can handle something that's kind of delicate like that and not tear it apart. So we have the two sliders. This is the mushroom and onion mixture, and you can see what the inside looks like. It's kind of hollow. These should feel light. They shouldn't feel heavy and dense. They should feel very light. In the case of the sliders, this is kind of moist, which is fine if you're going to eat it right away. Sometimes if you have a pastry cream or something really wet, you want to make sure it's dried out. So you might just even leave your pastry in the oven for a while and shut the oven off after you bake it if you want to really dry it out. But for the sliders, I think having a little moisture in the middle is nice. It'll give it a good mouthfeel. And then here are the little tops. So we're just going to take the mushroom mixture, put it in there. And again, this could be any kind of, it could be a seafood salad, anything like that. And then I have here some dandelion greens that came out of the garden, and some regular salad greens, and a little bit of sprouts. And here I'm going to put on the lid, maybe I can open this, a little bit of vinaigrette, just a dollop. Any kind of sauce that you have, anything that you have to, if you have a favorite dressing, plop, plop, and look at those cute little sliders that you can serve. Don't those look great? No meat at all in these, but a lot of visual appeal and a lot of flavor. So that's one thing that you can do. Another thing we can do is, let's turn them into a dessert. So we're going to take the almond covered eclair and take the top third or so off. Now you can fill these. Classically, they would drill a hole, dig out with a knife or something, a hole on the side for eclairs. For the profiterole on the bottom, a hole, and then there's a long nozzle. Again, I don't have one, and I'm not going to order one until the store's open. So we're just slicing the top off. So what I'm going to do with this is a couple of things. A friend of mine gave me some wonderful strawberry jam last year, and then because we're mincemeat, all about mincemeat here, I'm also going to put some mincemeat in too. So a little bit of jam and that. You could do chocolate mousse, Nutella, peanut butter mousse. I just saw a recipe for that, or peanut butter pastry cream. Anything that you like that would go well. But today we're going to, I think that mincemeat and strawberries go really well together. So we're going to make this little match made in heaven right here. Okay, so that's what that looks like. You don't need a lot. You don't want to fill it up a lot. Again, these are juicier or wetter kinds of ingredients, so you want to have your pastry fairly dry. Now we're going to fill a bag with whipped cream. So cameraman, if you could get us some whipped cream from the refrigerator, that would be awesome. And I will grab my pastry bag. Okay, so with whipped cream, again, pastry bag technique review. So here's what they call a star tip, and this will make a nice design. You've probably purchased cakes that have decorations done with star tip. Thank you very much. And again, make the cuff down here so you're putting product down towards the tip. In this case, instead of that heavier, denser dough, this is a lighter pastry cream. But again, right down to the bottom of the tip. I'm using a spatula. Okay. And this comes up, and we want to create our pleats in it. If you're just joining, this is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry, and we are covering the easy and elegant and versatile cream puff today. Okay, so you've drawn it down, you've got your twist going, and that brings, so with one hand really you can direct the cream. Okay, so now back down here to the eclair. We're going to just do some circles, big circles, just slowly pulling the tip. Okay, so we have a nice high spiral of pastry cream. It's a little bit soft, but I could have beaten it a little bit longer, but it's okay. We're going to put that on, and then we're going to take some confectioner's sugar and sprinkle that on top. Oh my. There's our eclair with mincemeat, strawberry jam, and crème chantilly, or whipped cream, and we're going to put that over here as well. So there is that. Okay, and then one more dessert. We're going to do a classic profiterole with ice cream. So let's do that. Now, I have on the back of the stove a little bit of chocolate sauce, which are equal parts of chocolate, and in this case it's butter, but you could probably use coconut oil or coconut milk. I have not tried that yet, but please let me know if you have any success with that. And this chocolate is actually a sugar-free chocolate, which really tastes good. It's called Lily's, and it has stevia and that word that I can't pronounce that begins with E. But anyway, it's sugar-free, and it performs like chocolate. It's pretty impressive. Gaston Lenotre and Jacques Pépin might have a hard time with that, but and I typically don't go sugar-free, but in this case, because someone was talking to me about sugar-free baking, I decided to give this a try, and I have to say I'm very, very pleased with it. So this can be a sauce or it can be a glazed. It's a ganache, which is the French word for it, and today we are going to do the classic profiterole with ice cream. So saw the head off of our, watch your fingers, the head off of our profiterole, and we're going to take some ice cream and put that in there. All right, and then we're going to put the top on. Let's get our platter back here so we can do this right on the platter. Oops. Our soft whipped cream is okay. And then we'll just gotta wipe the water off the bottom of the pot, of the bowl rather, and then we'll just drizzle a little of this. It's very fudgy, very thick chocolate sauce onto our profiterole. It's pretty thick. I should have thinned it with some, maybe a little bit of cream or something like that. But boy, I know what my appetizer for lunch is going to be. So I don't know if I can wait until dessert. So we have profiterole with a chocolate sauce and ice cream. We have an eclair with crème chantilly or whipped cream and jam and some mincemeat. And then we have our sliders, mushroom and onion sliders, again on profiterole. So you can see that you have a lot of variety in what you're doing. So thank you very much. I know this has been a long show, but I really appreciate you coming. I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes, and I'm going to make lunch for myself and my cameraman Ron. We're going to do one of the smaller Paris breasts and put some salad in that. So stick around, and I'm happy to show you how to do that. But I'm going to say thank you right now. This is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry. If you've learned anything, please share with your friends what you've seen today, and send us any questions, any comments, and I will get back to you. I'm sorry I can't do it right now, but I promise I will get back to you. Look for the description for a link for the recipes in our description on both YouTube and on our Facebook page. So those of you that need to go, thank you very much. We're going to continue and make a salad with our Paris breast shape, and then I'll be all set for lunch. So, okay, we're going to move these over here and take our form, our circle. And again, another thing that you can do is if you have just a star tip, and I did that, you can use just the star tip to pipe everything out. That adds some more surface area and a little more crunch to it. So I really actually like using the star tip to pipe out your profiterole, your eclairs, and your Paris breast rings. So that's a nice option. Don't forget that. So we're going to make a salad ring essentially, and for this size, I would say you could easily. This would be a serving for 3 people. For entree, this is maybe 2 people. For appetizer, 3, and then for something fun to taste for 4 people, 4 or 5 people. But again, we're going to watching our hands, keeping our fingers running on the same plane as the knife. We want to take about the top third or so off and kind of go around to do that. I covered this with poppy seeds instead of almonds. And you could, poppy seeds could go either dessert or savory. I had some nice tropical fruit left over from last week, and I cooked up some pineapple, and that was delicious. Unfortunately, I ate it all, or else I could have turned this into a sweet thing. Okay, so this is kind of moist. Again, if you're doing something that's going to be sitting out, pâte à choux is great, but once cream and dough come together, you really should eat it in the same day. You can make this ahead of time in so many formats. You can make the dough ahead of time, put it in the fridge for a week, up to a week, and it's fine to go. You can take the dough and form it, pipe it out into your forms, freeze those, and for up to 6 months, and they're set. You can bake it and freeze the puffs. You can put them, cool them completely, put them in a Ziploc or a tin, and they'll stay at room temperature for 3 or 4 days. You might need to freshen them up in the oven. That's that thing. So definitely very, very versatile. Okay, so back to what we're doing here. We're taking the mushroom mixture and putting that in the base. And again, if you have something that you want to keep a little longer, let's say you're doing something and it's a couple hours away from when you're going to be serving, but you need to do it ahead of time. If the filling and the pastry are coming together, you want to make sure that the pastry is fairly dried out so that it doesn't get too soggy. Okay, I'm going to move this onto our plate at this point. Lift it up. And some greens, dandelion greens, fresh picked are great, so nutritious, good for you. And some regular greens. And some of the sprouts, if you have them. Sprouts are great to hang out in the fridge. They can last a long time. A little bit of dressing on it. Okay, and then I'm going to pre-cut the top into 4. I have some chives and some mint too. I'll kind of just toss it around. Also from the garden today. I'm so happy to see things growing. And then just put your lid back on. If you want to give this a shower of grated cheese or something like that, that's fine too. So there we have the ring, the salad ring with pâte à choux and some fresh salad greens. Easy, elegant, and this pâte à choux is something that you definitely should put into your repertoire. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Please share if you've learned something. Send us your questions, comments. You can message us. This is Lynn from Farmer Street Pantry. Be healthy, be well, and we will see you soon.